like and subscribe. If you could smack one person with no consequences, who would it be, and why? The guy who rear-ended me last year. Because he needed to text. I have a brain injury that affects every facet of my life. The edit. Thank you for the overwhelming kindness, support, and slaps. I'd love to reply to everything, but D can't keep up. Edit second. If you'd like to be friends, I'm open to it. Just shoot a message, and I'll reply when y'all. Processor cools down D. I would use my slap to slap this guy as well. Whoever stole my pressure washer. I have been wanting a good one for years. I finally bought a decent model, and it was stolen before I even got to use it on my own stuff. My I'm creepy boss who's always up my and I'm waits outside the bathroom when I go. This is a slippery slope. If I get permission to smack one, I am going to have to keep smacking fools worldwide. Eater, holy. I did not realize this would be so popular. Thanks for the awards and comments. Probably Mike Tyson, just so I can say that I slapped him with no consequences. Lol. That guy who increased insulin costs to $700 a month rates. I'm not even diabetic. He's just the biggest scumball I could think of that hadn't seen commented yet. Edit. For you all mentioning our current and last president, this happened before either of them. My 15-year-old self. Less drugs boy. The person who invented popcorn ceilings, because they invented popcorn ceilings. My ex-husband and his most recent ex-wife. Yes, I know that too, but they go together. I wanted the divorce, which ultimately led to them getting together. I posed 0 threats. Yet, she still treated my kid 5-year-old son like. She wrote him horrible emails, and said she was glad he didn't come over anymore, because he was such a brat nobody wanted him there anyway. They also stood him up on Thanksgiving, as soon as she gave birth to their son, within a year, because she wanted it to be just family. She got a job at the bank I use, and accessed my accounts without authorization. She was fired. It was still my fault. Then she got a job next door to where I worked. It was all super bizarre. X hasn't seen my son since he was 10, and has now 25. They divorced years ago. She remarried, had 2 more kids, and then became addicted to drugs, lost all 3 of the kids, including my ex's son. He didn't take him either. I would absolutely be delighted to punch them both directly in the face. Eater, my son was 10 when he got the email. He was 5 when we divorced, and X started seeing the now ex-stepmother. My old boss. My now boss. Just one person? So many. So few slaps. My mill. She's annoying as hell. She grew up with people blowing hot air up her. And has never been told she's airheaded and extremely judgmental. Right now, my mother-in-law. She posted an announcement of my baby's birth, before I was even capable of doing so. Which wouldn't be so bad, if me and baby weren't fighting for our lives. I went through 3 bags of pitocin, because I was bleeding out, which is *AGONIZING*. Meanwhile the doctor had to reach inside my womb, to remove flesh that couldn't come away, and my son was whisked away, because he couldn't breathe. He had to be transferred to a children's hospital. She had the audacity *DURING to say mom and baby are both doing great. She's always been so great, which makes it worse, honestly. It was like a slap in the face. Edit. Baby and I are recovering relatively well. My older kids caught COVID at the babysitters while I was in the hospital, so baby and I are isolating in an inn for a while. He's still incredibly fragile and my bleeding has increased, but I think things will be okay. The older kids are recovering very well from COVID. Either one of the people who lied under oath when we sued my kid or a school district, or the judge who believed them because her mom was a teacher and they told the truth. Edit. Thanks for the hugs awards. I love those things. I'm not going to say what we sued for. Don't want quite that much identifying info out in the world. I will say that the lies in question were about things teachers and administrators said in meetings my husband and I attended, but we had no proof. We were incredibly naive and had no concept of how easily people will perjure themselves when their boss is in the room and their job is on the line. Also, school districts have plenty of money for lawyer fees and insurance to pay settlements, so ultimately nothing changes. We persisted in hopes of instituting change and lost. Another family settled before going to court, and I don't blame them a bit. Go for the judge. That's a really tight justification for their decision, based on personal bias, and they shouldn't be in court in the first place with that mindset. Kid who used to work at my old retail job named Michael. It is like God spilled a person into a vat of toxic waste. Let me just share a list of things about Michael. When he was hired, he had just graduated high school. His girlfriend was 50. One time they got into an argument, and he kept telling me, you know that song Bad Guy by Billie Eilish? Well, I am just gonna be the bad guy. It was painfully clear that he was in the wrong. He stole a lot and let other people steal a lot. Two of us nearly got fired until it became fairly obvious that it was him doing it. Would sit on register 1 and fart all day. So much so that there was a legitimately permanent fart smell at the register his entire shift and 2 full hours after Hen'd leave. Stole his granddad's credit card info and maximumed it out on Fortnite. Ended up getting fired for a felony charge of stealing over $300 from his till. Worked in a chop shop owned by a regular in the store, known widely as an incredibly nice and patient man that only hired convicts. He got fired after 2 weeks. He was 21 years old. My mother-in-law lol. She's rude, lazy and nosy as. I'll tell you what, you slap mine, and I slap yours. Win-win. Andrew Wakefield. He's that released the bull study that claimed a link between vaccines and autism. Eater, thanks for the awards 3. I would like to add that, if given the chance, I would still slap him, regardless of consequences. My old high school band director has a 5-year-old son, has a wife who is pregnant with twins. Proceeds to cheat on said wife with a good friend of mine, who was on the drum line, hers mom. Divorces wife and moves in with friend's mom. Gets fired from the school, and to this day, 4 years later, lives with my friend's mom and does not allow him to come back home. Everyone I know hates that slimy slug. Her's 10 years younger than the mom, a fat arrogant loser who I am plotting on popping his tire someday. Stab don't slash. Slashing will rip open it like a zipper and blow out your eardrums. This I know named John. If you're reading this, John, you edit. Sorry to all the Johns I have offended, but to be fair, that's what you get for being named John. Eric from 4th grade. He was any customer that acts like Thea on a pedestal and I am their servant. I hate customer service. Mitch McConnell. Jake Paul. Honestly, I would slap Jake Paul, even if there were consequences. Chris Brown. Just wondering if he can swing it with it, man. My ex-husband. One solid slap across the face, knowing that this time I wanna be the one getting hit. I am sold. Edit. I was not expecting any sort of response to this, let alone such a big one. So, I'll let all know it has been 4 years since I left him. I am much happier and safer, and am with someone who would never dream of hurting me. Thank you. My bully. There is a ton more people I would want to slap, but my bully needs it most. Prince Andrew for being a child molester and then lying about it. Whoever is responsible for the last season of Game of Thrones. The idiot I live with. Hands down. Plot twist, lives alone. My stepfather, not for the years of abuse and disrespect to me and my brother, but because of how he's treating my mum now. They were having marriage difficulties, a home renovation and other issues at the same time, so he decided to off to the UK for an undetermined amount of time with 2 weeks warning, leaving mum to run their business, handle the renovations and her own severe mental illness caused by their marital issues. He expected her to just put her head down and push through, and didn't speak her for months. Now blames her for their marital issues, for her mental illness, his mental health problems, etc. Doesn't accept any blame and won't apologize, only gaslights, patronizes and attempts to manipulate. This woman spent 12 years raising his kids and hers, running the house, being too like at his business, while closing her ears and eyes to his abuses to protect herself. She's not a saint, but FFS she doesn't deserve this. Thankfully, she's divorcing him. My mother. She's an abusive narcissistic psycho who separated me from my father, altered my memories, let her boyfriends do whatever they wanted to me, forced me to participate in a cult, used me to commit crimes, and made everything from mac and cheese to shoes to food traumatic. My mother, she's an abusive mother and wife who only contributes to my father's alcoholic problems by treating him like she never does anything, and buys everything she possibly can to satisfy herself. We need a new window? Nope, she buys herself 5 new dresses, and then complains we don't have money. I go upstairs to my room, the dog makes a mess, after I cleaned up the room, and she comes running to freak out. My dad gets home from work after a stressful day, she gets mad at him for not wanting to do more hard work, after having to listen to her complain about how tired she is from sitting down the entire day doing next to nothing, and there's so much more. Edit. Thank you everyone for the support. My coworker who came to work sick last week, did not wear a mask, or get a vaccine, and exposed all the rest of us to Delta. I just said earlier today that, if I were not quarantined, and awaiting test results, I would 100% slap her. The Taliban leader. Trump. Louis D. Joy. Nestle CEO. My ex. Op, just for asking this questions. No real reason other than just cause. Fair enough. Mark Zuckerberg. Edit. That guy. Tikhon Nikolaevich Krenikov. That butt-kissing bootlicking. Poor excuse of a composer knew precisely what he did to Dmitri Shostakovich during the Zdanovshchina of 1948, not to mention plenty of other Soviet composers. But let us not kid ourselves here, Shostakovich was clearly the main target, as if he had not been kicked around already with the Pravda denunciations of 1936, and gone through some serious afterwards, with everyone always breathing down his neck, and tossing his reputation back and forth like the world's most traumatized hacky sack. Like, the poor man clearly needs a break. And then Tishinka, we're bringing out the diminutives here, because I came here for no reason, but to slander and disrespect, comes along and decides Hella's gonna kiss up to Stalin or Zdanov or whomever the and like. I get it. The Soviet Union was a difficult place to be in the late 1940s, if you were a composer. People often ended up denouncing friends and whatnot out of necessity. But no, this little power grubbing goes above D and D beyond D and just verbally S on everyone to get ahead, way more than would be required from him. And like, we have proof Shostakovich did not like him, did not trust him, etc etc. And yeah, the poor guy had no reason to, and Krenikov could have left it at that after Shostakovich died, and could have been like, yeah, I had to say some about him and he did not like me, which is understandable, but no he goes out and says like, Shostakovich was grateful to me, and in 1948, Shostakovich did not want for money in like interviews and when Heroes the Thing. During the 1948 Stanovshchina, Shostakovich was fired from both his conservatory positions in Moscow and Leningrad, and most of his works were blacklisted, meaning he was not making money on them, and he and his family sank into poverty for the time, and it got to the point where he was forced to ask for handouts. And if you know anything about Shostakovich, you would know how low he would have to get before he started asking for handouts. The man was desperate, and we get this information from second-hand accounts, letters, etc. And what does Khrennikov say? In 1948, Shostakovich did not want the money. Fight me. I will personally learn. Necromancy so I can bring this sleazy bag slut for Stalin back from wherever hell is boiling, and we can go one-on-one. He was not even that good of a composer anyway. And also there was that 1979 denunciation of 7 avant-garde composers from this hoe that nobody asked for. Like, you could have just not done that. 1979. Also, did I mention he lived until 2007? I shared the planet with Tikhon Khrennikov for a good period of my life, and that fact fills me with the rage I need to get out of bed in the morning. So yeah. Hella's getting slapped. You've been visited by the ghost of a very important man. Pay your respects by liking and subscribing, and he'll grant you 3 weeks of good luck.